Hello everyone, my name is Roshan Regmi, and in this presentation, I'm going to critically reflect on the problem of equity and inclusion in the Australian early childhood education and care. According to ESECA 2017, effective leadership in the early childhood sector is key in the development of professionals' values, strategic directions, in a healthy work culture. And exclusive learning experience allows teachers to uh, self reflect and work with one another and never cease to improve. Nevertheless, access, participation, and outcomes of the large number of Australian children are still impacted by systemic inequities. Throughout this presentation, I will define and conceptualize the problem of equity and inclusion of early childhood education care in Australia, discuss the risks that are related to this issue with uh, references to the early years learning frameworks EYLF and national college standard, and suggest evidence based studies that allow educators and leaders to mitigate the mentioned risks. So first of all, equity and inclusion in early childhood education care. The first of all will be the definition. uh, Equity in early childhood education. Equity in early childhood education is fair treatment, access, and opportunity of all children and families, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, cultural identity, language diversity, and gender and ability. Inclusion entails the provision of learning environments in which all children feel safe, respected, and supported to be included in all aspects of learning and development in a way that is meaningful and full. The Australian Human Rights Commission 2020 claims that uh, inclusive education is a human right and a pedagogical requirement. However, there is still unequal access to high quality inclusive ECEC, that means early childhood education care, especially among Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children with disability, rural community, and children of refugee or poor families. As Sims 2017 claims, although Australia has achieved a lot in the field of policy, numerous ECC, that means early childhood education care, providers continue to experience difficulties when it comes to the application of inclusive practices beyond merely celebrating diversity in the surface and dealing with it in a profoundly more integrated, pedagogical, and structural way. So inclusion and inequity in the Australian ECE. Equity and inclusion are entrenched both in the EYLF version 2 2022 and the NQS 2020 in the Australian ECA context. According to EYLF Principle 4, the framework is based on equity, inclusion, and diversity, which are necessary to realize the potential of every child. Similarly, the EYLF Outcome 1 emphasizes that children are expected to possess a very strong sense of identity that involves the sense of inclusion, safety, and cultural confirmations. So, the national quality standard officially, especially the quality area 1 educational program and practice, and quality area 6 collaborative partnership with families and communities, require the services to offer inclusive program that are sensitive to the situation of each child and needs of each child. Even with these requirements, institutional impediments still exist. like Pasco and Renan 2017 state in the lifting our game report that disadvantaged children are much less likely to have attained early learning programs, and those who do have access to such programs have lower quality services. Similarly, the Mitchell Institute 2021 state that the structural inquiries like uh, disparities in funding, workforce restriction, and broken policies still prevent enacting inclusive early childhood education in Australia in the real sense of word. Let's talking about the risks related to the inequality and inclusion exclusion. When sorry, when equity and inclusion are not properly considered, there exist the number of risks to child development and quality of services. So among them, first one is achievement gap and educational disadvantage. uh, Marginalized usually start school at disadvantage as compared to other children according to the AEDC, that means Australian Early Development Census 2021. One out of every five children in Australia uh, begins school age or developmentally vulnerable child. In the case of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children, this figure means more than 40. Unless dealt with it in early age, the said disparities are likely to widen instead of receding as they as according to the Goldfield et al. 2022. So the second will be children rights violation, discrimination and exclusion in the early childhood environment may negatively affect the right of child to attend school and get involved as stated in the UN Convention on the Rights of Child, UNCRC. Uh, this is the right contradiction to the concept of the EIL of that practices need to be uh, inclusive and respectful. So the third option will be the third point is workforce moral and capacity impact. Teachers who perceive themselves as unprepared or lacking resources to the inclusion practice meet higher become stress and suffer burnout or lose professional satisfaction. Friends and Scatwell 2021 state that workplace culture, professional learning, and the ability of educators to meaningfully address diversity and inclusion have a clear relationship. So the fourth number is lost chances of learning. Exclusionary practices, deliberate or not, deny children the chance to have a rich learning experience. As an example, when teachers have like deficit perceptions concerning the cultural linguistic background of a child, they can lower their expectation, which restrict cognitive, social, and emotional development of the child. Strategies, now talking about the strategies to reduce risks and promote inclusion. The advocacy of equity and inclusion needs a pedagogical leadership and systemic response. These are some of the main strategies that are based on the existing literature and best practice policy. The first of all is culturally responsible pedagogy. A culturally responsive approach appreciates and integrates cultural knowledge, experience, and identities of every child and family. Rose and Hadley 2020 like 2018 remarked that teachers are supposed to perceive culture as an assist and not a problem. the internationalism of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewpoint in the curriculum, recognizing the cultural feast beyond tokenistic gestures, and involving the family in process of co-construction of learning opportunities are all paramount practices. This significance of cultural competence is also brought out of by the EYLF version 2 age of professional requirement. Here, it essential continuous critical thinking, listening, and making moral decision. So, talking about the second point, the second is enhancing family and community collaboration. Without the actual work with families, inclusive practice is impossible. The NQS quality area 6 demands that the services should forge an amicable and supportive relationship with the families and communities. The development of the relationship of trust with families, especially those that have undergone some form of marginalizations in the past, takes time, understanding, and regular interaction. The author suggests that it is the important to generate family friendly environment, attract bilingual employees, and adopt a varying communication method in order to make it possible to hear everybody grace and target 2022 2012 presence. So the third point is, according to Colmore Waniganaike and Phil 2015, inclusive cultures are very dependent on leadership. Leaders should be role models of inclusion and offer specific professionals growth and open up secure places where employees can contempt people bias and privilege. According to Colmore, a transformational leadership plays a crucial role in early childhood settings. Leaders who promote common values, facilitate contemplative, contemplative dialogue, as well as provide the staff with an autonomy, can more likely maintain an inclusive practice. The introduction of anti-bias and trauma-informed care, as well as inclusive curriculum design is regularly required professional learning, can have a powerful impact on skill of educators. So talking about the point 4, the fair funding and resources distribution. Proper researching is necessary as far as structural equity is concerned. Both the Universal Access National Partnership and the Free School Reform Agreement are some step towards some more equal access to preschool education. Although there are still some major gaps, particularly in the rural and remote environments, according to Press and Wong. According to Press and Wong, an appropriate funding model is required to help children with complex need. Considering extra expenses, funding must not just make available, but also quality enhancements should be made, such as smaller group sizes, more qualified personnel, and resources that are the specific to the learning needs of the children. So the five number is the information based practice and self-assessment. The theorizations of discredited data can be used to comprehend enrollment, participation, and outcomes of various groups, and thereby the services can implement the understanding to fill gaps. The NKF self-assessment tool and the reflect, respect, relate framework are the tools that can be used to guide the services assessment in terms of how inclusive their practices are. And at the last, there is conclusion. To some of the equity and inclusion are not a concept that can be chosen, but rather the rights and duties of Australian ECEC professionals. Although major national frameworks like the EYLF and NQS have incorporate these principles, these are still many obstacles to participation and potential of many children. We as already childhood educators, leaders can and we should make sure that all children are seen, heard, and valued, and that none of children is left behind due to their identity, their background. Thank you for listening. The following are the references. Thank you for your time. Thank you.